Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be talking about a little bit more of solo character found. This is going to be another attempt at trying to find a good league starter, and this is probably by far one of the best cycle starter setups I've ever played, mainly due to how smooth the leveling process was and then transition into monoliths. Well, that is because just how absolutely ridiculously strong this is as soon as you get it set up early on. Now, the idea here is we're playing Volcanic Orb Sorcerer. It's going to be Ignite based. We're going to be applying a very large of Ignites, of course, and it just blew me away with how good this build actually felt throughout the entire playthrough. Not just like a really good leveling, then kind of meh in the mid game, right? Like the entire time, I was just blown away at how strong this build actually felt. So we're going to talk about it. But before that, if you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of supporting content like this on YouTube and showing me you want more stuff like this. So, with all that being said, let's talk about the build. The idea is we're playing Volcanic Orb Sorcerer Ignite. We are building around the node inside Volcanic Orb called Explosive Ground. What this does is it follows the Volcanic Orb around and creates small little patches of explosions. So I don't know if they actually scale with area right now, because if you look at the tag, it doesn't say area on the tag when you hover over the skill. So I didn't actually invest into area scaling, but in theory, later on, if they ever fix this, you could actually scale area on these little explosions and they'd be even more ridiculous if you could do that, right? But the idea is we throw down very expensive volcanic orbs and they create a very large amount of hits for, of course, our ignites. Now, the problem is our volcanic orb, even after all of the mana efficiency nodes on the tree, for the most part, other than the ones that like make the volcanic orb's duration less, we have like I think like a 70 mana volcanic orb. This is a little annoying, as you know, 70 mana, that's a lot for a skill, right? That is a lot for a skill. But we found a way around it, and that's why we're actually playing Sorcerer. Is actually We're actually utilizing one of the best things Sorcerer has access to. It is the combo between Aftermath and the free spell after teleport. So if you don't know, there's a node inside teleport that allows you to have a free spell after you teleport, right? Now this is okay-ish if you use it for like a damage spell or something like that. Normally you get like a free spell every so often, and if we used it for a volcanic orb, it would be like mediocre at best. But what this is really strong with is Meteor. That is because there's a node inside Meteor that gives you 48% of the mana cost of the Meteor over 3 seconds after you've cast Meteor. And what's important is this free spell after teleport is actually not a free spell. It just refunds the mana of the spell. So you're still paying the mana. This works for mana spent gained as ward shenanigans. It works for all that. But why that is important is because since we're spending the mana, if we use teleport then use Meteor, we gain half of its mana cost as mana over 3 seconds. And turns out EHG really hates Meteor, so it allows it to get to an absolutely ridiculous mana cost. Right now our Meteor has 220 mana as its mana cost. That is absolutely absurd. That should never be a thing, but it is, and it's a very bad Meteor. It literally does nothing except for, of course, Aftermath. It is giving us, I believe, after all the math, about like 35 mana per second for 3 seconds. And that is enough to, of course, support our volcanic orbs, because we stack a little bit of mana regen on top of that, right? And we also we utilize focus. We don't use that often, mainly like we use it every so often to like give us a little bit of bump of mana, but for the most part we're just simply utilizing the combo between teleport and Meteor to sustain our mana. And this is even stronger because there's a node inside Meteor that gives us a global 75% fire pen after you've cast Meteor. This is great because it allows us to apply very hefty ignites with our volcanic orb, and both of this combined allows us to do enough damage in the end game. Now, of course, this is character. It was about 300 corruption in 2 days. ish, maybe like a day and a half, something like that. It's something around there. I don't really keep track anymore. I just try to like make sure it's under 2 days so I can keep my upload schedule great. So that is why the gear is so bad. Technically, ignite builds are what I like to call Gucci builds because all of their good gear pieces are just scalable from LP stuff. So you very expensive builds in the end game, but you can invest into this build further and further, or you can just go directly crit with like Rog Warp or whatever. You don't have to actually go ignite. You just go ignite early on because it's very simple to scale early on. But later on, if you get something like a Rog Warp, crit is on the table because that fire pen from Meteor is global. So you could very easily go crit if you want to. I just, for the purposes of this video and this league start testing, I went ignite as it's easier. So with all that being said, let's go in game and talk about the build more in detail, shall we? Here we are in game with the character, the only thing Sorc does, which is, of course, the teleport Meteor combo. Let's talk about the skills, shall we? So for Volcanic Orb here, mainly just grabbing all the more damage nodes. So Explosive Ground does scale off of more damage to the core. So more core damage here, core damage here. That's all great, right? We like that. But we also grab, of course, explosive ground. So we can create this explosive ground. It's actually the first thing we grab in with a Volcanic Orb, mainly so that we can get this explosive ground, which is very strong. Then we grab 2 points into the explosive ground frequency. Don't really care about the mana cost increase. Then we grab 2 points into Monolithic Eruption, more 50% more damage, and we're not building around Shard Shrapnel, so we don't really care about the Shrapnel stuff. Then 5 points into Lava Flow, of course, for the mana efficiency. Then later on, we can grab cooldown recovery speed, so we can spam Volcanic Orbs and not have to invest cooldown recovery speed on gear. And we also get the more orb damage here. Now, this does add more speed per second. This is very annoying to play with early on because you want the explosive grounds to cluster around the Volcanic Orb. You don't want it to like, move. Thankfully, we can get idols like this, reduce Volcanic Orb speed, reduce Volcanic Orb speed. And if you get two of them, you can actually make it so Volcanic Orb moves very, very, very slowly. And that means that, you can place it on a target and then leave these explosive grounds everywhere, which is your preferred way of going about it. Now, some other people, they've actually gone with Orb of Speed and with Controlled Eruption. So these ones are fine, I found. I think you wouldn't be wrong if you grab these nodes. I think it's more of a playstyle preference. I like being able to leave my Volcanic Orb down and walk away and go do things. That is because, like, you have a 3-second Volcanic Orb, but if you grab these nodes, it's a 2-second Volcanic Orb. I think both ways are optional. I think you definitely go with this once you have more plus levels of Volcanic Orb on like your Twisted Heart, which I don't. But yeah, like I think with more plus levels you can go with those, but I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. I'm like mixed on them. Like I've had success with both ways, so like maybe they're just both viable. Like both ways are viable. I do like just the lingering volcanic orbs, right? Because like I can move and like I can put like 3 down on a diamond matron and walk away and then watch it melt, which is great. So other skills. So teleport. We just need the cooldown recovery speed here, the free spell after teleport. The stun immunity is always great, so we don't feel stunned constantly, and of course even more cooldown. That's pretty much it for teleport. Then for Meteor, main thing we care about is Aftermath for the portion of mana cost recovered. We care about Craterborn for the fire penetration. We care about Celestial Celerity because it increases the mana cost of Meteor significantly. Then we also grab Twin Meteors, which also increases the mana cost of Meteor. And we also care about Infernal Column, which also increases the mana cost. This means our Meteor is very mediocre in terms of playstyle. Like it's very bad, but it is very good for getting mana costs for our Aftermath. So I can show you here actually. So I only have a mana regen of 18. We could have way more than that if I had better gear. But watch my mana sustain. My mana sustain is significantly better when I am spamming Meteor with teleport and stuff. So it is really good to be utilizing the teleport trick, which is great. That's pretty much it for Meteor. The rest of the nodes in Meteor don't matter. You could literally take whatever you want. Like it doesn't really matter to me. But like you just want the mana costs. The main points: mana, Craterborn, Aftermath, mana, then more mana. Then Flame Ward, stereotypical Flame Ward setup, nothing too crazy. I am stacking more life, so I'm actually going with Desperate Defense, mainly because we are going with a life setup, so this actually is really good when you have a lot of life. Then Focus, stereotypical mana sustain setup with null perfusion and null infusion, just to get mana gained while you're negative, right? Really want that mana gain. So, for instance, when I'm negative mana with my Volcanic Orb, which will happen every so often, I can instantly gain very large amount of my max mana. This gets better as you get more max mana, yada yada yada. But thankfully, thanks to the combo of Meteor and Teleport, I don't have to like go too hard into the mana stacking on focus, so I can focus on other things. Pun. So passives that are important. I really like the reactive ward and Silver Rune. I'll be honest, without this reactive ward and Silver Rune, I think HP based, uh, you know, generally HP based, like mage builds in general would not be very good. It's very nice to get a burst of 2000 ward every single time you go down to like 70% health every 6 seconds. That is a very large amount of ward. Now, of course, we don't care if the ward sticks. The idea behind it is it kind of works like cast when damage taken from Path of Exile. The idea is it procs, and if we're getting hit by a bunch of different things, it gives us a lot of extra EHP in the moment, but it doesn't like generate us ward over time. It doesn't really matter to us. All we care about is in the moment kind of thing. Like if we get hit like with a bunch of different hits, reactive ward is insanely strong for that. And of course, eventually filling out the ignite with fire skills, getting the cooldown here is great, and as much HP as possible. Rune Master, same thing. HP here, less damage taken. HP here as well. Ignite chance with fire skills very strong. Eventually filling out the regen. Then Sorcerer here, just grabbing the mana regen, getting as much mana regen as possible is great on this build as it lets us spam Volcanic Orb longer. Then grabbing the fire damage leech as well as the leech on our gloves right now are good enough to sustain ourselves, but we eventually want to get like an LP bleeding heart, right? Then 5 points into whirling snow. We really want to slow and chill enemies in our Volcanic Orb. The main reason why we want that is because we want them to stay within the area of the Volcanic Orb, and to do that, reducing their action speed is a very good way of going about it, like making them slower so that they actually stay inside the Volcanic Orb. It makes your clear significantly better when you're constantly chilling and slowing them, so grabbing all the points in the chill is very strong. Then 8 points, of course, Ignite Duration. Ignite Duration here, very strong Ignite Duration, makes playing Ignite Sorc actually viable. Then 5 points into Spell Slinger for the mana regen, and then eventually like grabbing more mana regen, maybe grab the cooldown recovery speed. The 6 second rotation isn't bad at all. The cooldown would help our Flame Ward and stuff like that though. But yeah, that's pretty much it for passives. Now let's talk about gearing. So I just want to let you know this is very bad gearing. Like you could do much better than this, obviously, if you're playing for longer or if you're playing merchant skilled. So keep that with a grain of salt. The gear was farmed within 2 days of a fresh start character, so it's going to be scuffed. Our helmet, insanely scuffed, bad base, but ignite with fire skills, HP. Eventually, you'd want like maybe mana spent gained as ward or something else, maybe intelligence, something like that on the prefix or fire damage over time on a better base, preferably. This amulet's actually pretty okay. It's like okay, middle of the road. Mana regen, LE dot, HP, res, like just everything you'd want on a decent base. 4 LP Fire Stars torches are actually pretty cheap in Merchant Guild right now. Getting one with Ignite Chance, maybe Slow Chance, or Fire Pin, and then damage over time, and I think damage over time, and then mana and mana regen. Preferably a T7 mana and mana regen, mainly because, like I said, mana regen is the way to make this build feel even better, probably. Then, of course, chest here, health. Eventually, you'd want another health affix on this, of course, and then ignite chance with fire skills, then fire damage over time with ignite still with fire skills. Now, of course, this base is actually pretty good. The critical strike avoidance almost caps us, so the base is pretty good. Then shield, really the shittiest shield ever. I just equipped it because it had health on it and res, poison res specifically, because I was getting tired of dying to poison. Then, of course, mana regen, LE dot, Res is actually a pretty good ring. This is like the kind of ring you want to be looking for. Then here, Ellie dot, fire damage, implicit, HP, endurance. Like it's shitty, but it works. Eventually, you can go for like uh, double ruby ring eventually. Then for the gloves here, we're running Avarice right now, but you can dump the Avarice and go with a pair of armor gloves once you get a bleeding heart with LP on it. Once you get that, you can actually swap out of the bone amulet and go into that. Then for the boots here, movement speed, HP, eventually double HP as you can see there. Then strength. Strength is okay because it gives us like percent armor, so either that or int, either way. Then for a relic, we're actually running a Twisted Heart of Ulcrios. For the most of this character's existence, I ran a relic with +2 to Volcanic Orb, but this is actually better. Now it's funny because we don't care about the ward, we just care about the fact that the implicit has 19% increased health, and we care about that it has 14 strength. That is 48% increased armor, which is insane, obviously, and it's also 19% increased health, which is also insane. So, like, we're not even using the ward on this, and it's great. And it even gives us +1 to Volcanic Orb, which is great. So overall, Twisted Heart on an HP build in general is just good. You don't even care about the ward stuff. Then for idols, the most important ones are the reduced Volcanic Orb speed. After that, grabbing HP and then like fire damage over time, mana spent, gain as ward. Those are like the main ones you're looking for, but mainly just HP, double idol here. That's pretty much it for the idols. Now for blessings, I actually got pretty lucky this time around on my blessing for the normal blessings. Anyways, you want you want empowered ignite chance here. Mana, of course, eventually. Empowered crit avoid here eventually. Then armor empowered. Then armor percent empowered. Nothing too crazy. Just trying to get as much chonk as possible. And that's pretty much it for the character today. With all that being said, this has been Dread. I'll have to go do something else. Bye.